Hey friend, Alex here from Audio Edges. I mix music full-time and I make these videos because the majority of independent music released today does not sound professional and therefore will not gain traction, and I don't want that to happen to you. Today we are covering that dry rap vocal sound. A lot of the time rap vocals will sound best when they don't have a big space on them. They sound raw, close, and in your face. They don't have a big reverb-y hall on them or anything like that. But the mistake that so many beginners make is that they leave them completely dry. In this video, we'll uncover the secret subtle effects at play that complement this dry sound but aren't actually dry. I highly encourage you to stay until the end of the video because if you do, your vocals will have a new edge to them and will never sound like they did before. Before we dive in, I have compiled the juiciest list of some of my best mixing tips, like the ones we're talking about today, into a short, free guide. This thing has gone crazy on TikTok and beyond, and I'm constantly hearing about how new mixers will keep this list next to them while they work and their mixes are transforming. Don't miss out on that because it's completely free and the link is below in the description. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe, and without further ado, let's dive in. All right, here we are in the session. Let's have a look at this vocal with the beat for context.
Once again, flowing through my hands, once again, money getting spent, yeah.
All right, and let's take a listen to that vocal soloed with these effects on.
Once again, flowing through my hands, once again, money getting spent, yeah.
Interesting, right? Because when we listen to the vocal with the beat, there wasn't really any standout big reverb or hall or delay or anything like that. It sounded pretty dry. Let's put it back with the beat.
Once again, flowing through my hands,
Okay, but when we remove these effects, have a listen.
once again, flowing through my hands,
There's just something missing. Now, let's have a look at these effects. I do this all the time with these dry rap vocals. We have to give them a little bit of energy, a little bit of space, and this is how we're going to do it. Let's flip over to the mixer page so you can see exactly what we are doing. Now, this vocal is already processed. As you can see, this video is not about processing the vocal. It's specifically about the effects. So if you want to learn about the processing, go check out the previous video. I have a few different sends going on here, and the first one is just a doubler plugin. Now, all of these are being used very, very, very subtly. Okay, so I'm sending at unity gain from the vocal track, and all we're doing is using this plugin from Soundtoys. You can use Waves Doubler, you can use other doubling plugins, but I find this particular preset within Soundtoys Echo Boy is just killer. It's called Super Compressed Double, and you can find it under vocals right down here. Okay, and then what I did was tweak it just a little bit to, pull in the lows a little, and you'll also want to do things like maybe adjust the tempo a little bit. You want this basically to ride right alongside next to the vocal, but just be like a few milliseconds delayed, as you can see here. There's not a bunch of feedback on this because it's just one repetition of the vocal riding alongside. Let's have a listen to just this effect on its own.
Once again, flowing through my hands, once again, money getting spent, yeah.
Now let's mute it.
Once again, flowing through my hands,
and bring it in.
once again, money getting spent, yeah.
Again, muted,
Once again, flowing through my hands,
and with it on.
once again, flowing through my hands,
So very, very subtle effect here. And as you can see, I'm blending it in here on the return track because I want the full energy of this track being sent at 0 to the plugin, and I'm blending it using the return. It'll be different for these effects here, but here's how we blend it.
once again, flowing through my hands, once again, money getting spent, yeah.
So go until where you can just about hear it pretty clearly and then back it off some more, and that should be a sweet spot right around there. This is going to give it that first level of dimension while keeping the vocal dry sounding. Next, I have two reverbs. And when I say reverb, I'm not saying reverb. I'm just using the tiniest amount. And all that this is doing is carrying the vocal through the line in the background in a way that you can't even really tell is happening. So the first reverb I'm using is this pop vocal preset from RC48, and this is a medium length, very, very lush sounding reverb, and I've removed some of the lows from it because I want to make it super, super subtle, and I'm blending it using the send, not the return in this case, okay? Because with time-based effects, we need to blend them using the send. So let's listen to just this reverb on its own.
Once again, flowing through my hands, eh? Once again, money getting spent.
Okay, so that's just the reverb on its own, and you can hear how it's not a long haul. It's a shorter decaying, but very rich sounding reverb. Okay, so let's bring back in the doubler track and blend in just a tiny amount of this reverb.
Once again, flowing through my hands, eh? Once again, money getting spent, yeah. I offend just by flashing hands, yeah. She ain't shook, I got too.
Okay, so it's very subtle, very in the background, barely anything at all. This is that secret to that dry rap vocal sound. We have to give it something, but we're keeping it way in the back and we're layering it. Okay, so we're going to layer it with a vocal reverb too. As you can see, once again, I'm barely sending anything here, but let's set this up so we can hear it on its own. Once again, I'm just grabbing this RC48. This one is a bit of a longer reverb.
Once again, flowing through my hands, once again, money getting spent, yeah.
Okay, so obviously that's way too much. It's way too overkill. The key here is to put these so quiet in the background. So let's have a listen to the soloed vocal with the effects we put on and this second reverb brought in.
Once again, flowing through my hands, once again, money getting spent, yeah. I offend just by flashing hands, yeah. She ain't shook, I got too much bands, yeah.
So see how subtly this is blended in? We're barely adding any, but it is a long reverb just in the very background to carry the vocal through those empty spaces. But it's still a mostly dry sounding vocal. This is more something you maybe feel a little bit more than you actually hear. And finally, we are onto this vocal delay. I've called it vocal delay 1, and it is just a very subtle muffled echo effect. I grabbed this preset from Echo Boy and just tweaked it a little bit. And here's what it sounds like actually all on its own.
Once again, flowing through my hands, once again, money getting spent, yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of this chorused, slightly saturated echo that's sitting way behind the vocal. We don't want this to be an in-your-face effect, very subtle. So let's listen to it with the vocal as well.
Once again, flowing through my hands,
Okay, and without.
once again, flowing through my hands,
Okay, so it's clearly there, but it's subtle, okay? Now let's bring in the other effects so you can hear all 4 of these together.
Once again, flowing through my hands, once again, money getting spent, yeah.
And muted.
Once again, flowing through my hands, once again, money getting spent, yeah.
And back with the full track.
Once again, flowing through my hands, once again, money getting spent, yeah.
Now, one last thing I did to this vocal was create a cool delay throw effect that I automated to, and it sounds like this.
Once again, money getting spent, yeah.
And if you'd like to learn how to create that effect, I made a video about that as well, which I will put in the description. But today we wanted to cover these subtle effects that complement a dry vocal and let it still feel dry, especially in this type of genre where that's very, very necessary. There you have it, my friend. The mystery behind the dry rap vocal sound finally revealed. Subtle effects like reverbs, delays, and doubling used very minimally and working together to give rap vocals that polished feel that you won't get from a completely dry vocal with no effects. But it still sounds dry in just the right way. If you found this helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more. I'm so glad you're here, and I'll see you next time.